Hello, so today we're going to solve our true equations problem by creating physical representations to help us. I cut out the numbers 0 through 9 and wrote out the equations with the blanks so that we can put the numbers in the blanks to try and find the answer. So our problem is use the digits 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 to make true equations of the following. And you can only use each digit once. So here are our numbers that we're going to use. Now we're going to make this a little systematic so that we make sure we're using all of our options and finding every one that works. So we're going to take a look at our division problem because that is our simplest one. Since it equals 2, there are only a couple number options that will actually work for this. Actually only 4 to be exact. We can only do 2 divided by 1, 4 divided by 2, 6 divided by 3, and 8 divided by 4. So what we're going to do is start with 2 divided by 1, and then we can start filling out the rest of the equations with the first one filled out to make it a little bit easier for us. So let's go ahead and start with 2 divided by 1. And what we can do is start with our hardest equation next, which is the multiplication one, because that's 4 numbers that we have to fill out. So we'll go ahead and put our smallest number, which is 3. We're not adding the 0 because 0 multiplied by anything is going to equal 0 again, so that won't work. So we're going to go ahead and do 3 first, and what we're going to do is multiply it by each one of these numbers to see if any of them work. If one of them works and we can fill it out, then we can go on to the other equations and see if those work with our remaining numbers. Now we do have to remember that we can only use each number once. So if a number is already being used, then we can't put that in the answer of this multiplication problem. So let's go ahead and begin with 3. So first we're going to go ahead and we're going to do 3 times 4, which equals 12, but we can't use 1 or 2. So we're going to have to do 3 times 5, and that equals 15, but we can't use 1 or 5 now. So we'll do 3 times 6, which is 18. Again, can't use the 8 or the 1. So 3 times 7 next, which is 21. Can't use either of those numbers. So we'll do 3 times 8, which is 24. We can't use the 2. And lastly, we'll do 3 times 9, which is 27. And again, we can't use the 2. So now what we're going to do is move on to 4 on the top. And what we're going to do is keep going through. When we finish our 4s, we'll do the 5, and then the 6, 7, and then 8. We don't have to do 9 because by the time we get there, we'll have exhausted all multiplication problems. So we're going to go ahead and do 4 times 5 first. If this loads, 4 times 5 equals 20. And we can't do that because of the 2. So 4 times 6 equals 24. We can't do that because of the 2 and 4. 4 times 7 is 28. Again, can't use the 2. 4 times 8 is 32. Can't use the 2 again. And 4 times 9 is 36. We can go ahead and put the 36 in here. So we're going to do that and see if any of the rest of the numbers work. We could do 2 plus 5, which equals 7. But if we do that, the rest of the numbers are not going to work. So we're going to have to move on with 5. So next we have our 5 on the top, and we have 4 options that we can multiply and see if any of these work. So first we're going to do 5 times 6, which equals 30. And we can go ahead and put that in there. And then we could do 2 plus 7 because that equals 9. But our remaining numbers do not work. So we're going to have to move on. Our next number that we're going to multiply with the 5 is 7. So when we do 5 times 7, we get 35, and that won't work because of the 5. So we're going to do 5 times 8, which is 40. Now we can go ahead and do 2 plus 7 again, which is 9, but our remaining options do not work again. So we're going to have to move on to our last option, which is 5 times 9. Now if we do 5 times 9, we get 45, which again does not work. So now for the next 2 options, we have 6, 7, next 3 options, 6, 7, and 8 that we still have to go through. You go ahead and go through those since I already did. None of them work, and to save time and make sure that this is under 10 minutes, we're not going to go through those, but you just keep in mind that none of those work, and that's how we're going to do the rest of them with our next 3 options. So our next one is 4 over 2. Again, I'm not going to show this one, but it would look exactly the same as we just did, starting with 3, because 1 multiplied by any of these numbers is going to be the same number as it's multiplied by, so that won't work either. So we will start with 3, and we're going to go ahead and do that. Now if you go through all of them, none of them work. So what we're going to do is move on to 6 divided by 3, which is our third division option. And we're going to go ahead and start with 2, because again, 0 and 1 do not work, so we'll start with our lowest, which is 2. So if we first go ahead and do 2 times 4, that equals 8 and is too low. So we'll do 2 times 5, which is 10. We can go ahead and put that in. And then we can do 2 plus 7 again, which equals 9. but our remaining options do not work. So we're going to have to move on. And we're going to go ahead and do 2 times 7. Now 2 times 7 equals 14, and we can put that in, but our remaining numbers do not work clearly, so we're going to have to do 2 times 8, which is 16. And we can go ahead and, we can't put that one in because of the 6, so we'll do 2 times 9, which is 18, and we can go ahead and put that one in. And we can do 2 plus 5, which equals 7, but our remaining numbers do not work. So we're going to have to move on to 4 next because 3 is already being used, and we're going to do the same thing. So first we have 4 times 5, which equals 20. And then we could do 2 plus 7 again to equal 9, but our remaining numbers do not work again. So now we're going to have to move on, and our next number, because 6 is already being used, is 7. So we're going to do 4 times 7, which is 28, and we can go ahead and put that one in. But our remaining numbers do not work. So we're going to have to move on and do 4 times 8. 4 times 8 is 32. Since 3 is already used, we can't do that. So we'll do 4 times 9, which is 36. And again, 3 and 6 are being used, so that won't work. So next we're going to move on to 5. And we're going to start and do 5 times 7 first. 5 times 7 is 35. We can't use the 5, so we'll do 5 times 8 next, which is 40. We can go ahead and put that in. And then we could do 2 plus 7, which equals 9. And our last numbers are 2 and 1. If we do 2 minus 1, we equal 1. And there you have it. We have one option already that works. But we have one more division option that we can use, which is 8 divided by 4. So we're going to go ahead and go through this one just to make sure that these work. Now, we didn't finish all of the options for 6 divided by 3, but none of those work either. You just do the same thing as we have been doing. So let's go ahead and do 8 divided by 4. We're going to start with 2. So we first do 2 times 3, which is 6, so that won't work because it's one digit. So 2 times 5 is 10. We can go ahead and put that in there. And we can do 2 plus 7 equals 9, but our last one does not work. So we're going to go ahead and do 2 times 6 next. And 2 times 6 equals 12. We can't use the 2, so that won't work. So we're going to do 2 times 7, which is 14. Can't use the 4, so 2 times 8 is 18. Can't use the 8. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to 3 next. We're going to go ahead and do 3 times 5 first is 15. Can't use the 5, so 3 times 6 is 18. Can't use the 8. 3 times 7 is 21. We can go ahead and put that in there. But the rest of the numbers do not work for us, so we're going to have to move on to 3 times 9 since 8 is being used, which is 27. We can put that in there, but none of the rest of the numbers work, so we're going to have to move on. Now we're going to move on to 5, and we'll start with 5 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30, and we can go ahead and put that in there. Then we could do 2 plus 7, which equals 9. And then 2 minus 1, which equals 1. And there you have it. We have found our second equations that work. Now, if you go ahead and do the rest of them, 5 times 7, 5 times 9, and 6 times 7 and 9, then you'll see that none of those work either. So our final answers are 2 plus 7 equals 9, 5 times 6 equals 30, 8 divided by 4 equals 2, and 2 minus 1 equals 1, and 2 plus 7 equals 9, 5 times 8 equals 40, 6 divided by 3 equals 2, and 2 minus 1 equals 1. So there are 2 answers for this problem.